Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
When you get a moment, just make yourself comfortable up there, and when you have a chance, if you'll please introduce yourself to the judge, just tell him your name, and if you can, just spell it for the court.
Okay. My name is Marcilie Lynn Gardner. Marcilie, Marcille.
Ms. Gardner, when's your birthday? I don't need the year, but the day.
Well, I'm not ashamed. October 15, 1962.
Okay, thank you. And at the time of around October the 13th of 2022, where were you living?
Hedingham.
Okay. And how long had you lived in the Hedingham neighborhood?
Since January of 2020.
All right. And do you know what the address was that you lived at there, or at least the street name?
2172 Castle Pines Drive.
Okay. And during the time that you lived there, did you become friendly with or know Nicole Connors?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know where she lived at the time?
Yes.
Where did she live?
Across the street.
Okay. So you guys were neighbors?
Yes.
And from time to time, would you hang out with each other?
Yes, we would.
And what kinds of things would you do with Miss Connors?
Well, we both had fur babies. And we would walk our dogs frequently. We would sit on my porch at times and people watch and have girly conversations, and we'd sometimes be on her porch, people watching and watching our dogs play.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Yorkie Chihuahua mix.
And how old is your dog?
Baby is 5.
Okay, and is that her name, Baby?
Yes.
And
not B-A-B-Y.
Okay, how do you spell it?
B-A-E-B-E-E.
Okay, and you said that you and Miss Connors would both walk dogs. Did she have a dog at that time?
She had a Yorkie, and her name was Sammy.
Okay. And on or about the 13th of October, so that was about 2 days before your birthday?
2 days before my 60th birthday, yes.
Okay. And 2 days before your 60th birthday, did you and Nicole decide you were going to do anything together?
As a matter of fact, yes. I was off the 13th of October. I was planning on taking a trip to Wilmington to celebrate my birthday, and I was running errands, and as a matter of fact, Baby was at the groomer, and I came home, and Nicole saw me going into the garage, and she called me. And when she called me, she's like, "What you doing home?" I said, "Girl, me and Baby going to the beach." She's like, "I want to take you out for your birthday." I said, "You don't have to do all that." She was like, "Well, I want to. I'm going to take you to dinner." So we decided to go to Red Lobster for dinner that evening.
All right, and when you say dinner, do you know around what time we're talking?
We left from around maybe 4:30ish.
Okay. So early afternoon, or late afternoon, early evening.
Right.
Okay. And I hear you talking about Baby. Were you and Baby is very important to you, right?
Yeah, she's my piece.
Okay. And was Sammy the same for Nicole?
Sammy, yes. They were our fur babies.
I get it. And so the two of you decide you're going to go celebrate your birthday at Red Lobster. Did you go do that?
We did.
All right. And at some point, did you guys come back home after being at Red Lobster on that day?
We did. On the way back home, we decided to take the girls for a walk for the evening, and we agreed to meet after she dropped me off 10 minutes later at her mailbox. So I went to my house and put my leftovers down and got Baby leashed up and walked across the street and was standing in front of her mailbox waiting for her and Sammy to come out.
Okay. And at some point, did her and Sammy come out?
Well...
Or do you remember?
I don't recall them coming out.
And I want to ask you about that. As a result of what happened that day, do you have some gaps in your memory?
Yes.
Okay. And but do you remember some of the events that happened that day?
I do.
All right. And so while you were out and you've got Baby with you, And at some point, did you see the defendant?
While I was standing at Nicole's mailbox, I was looking at her front door, willing her and saying to come out, because in my mind, I had stuff to do, get ready to go on my trip. So I'm standing there looking at her door, and I see on my left peripheral someone standing next to me, but I didn't turn my head to look. I was so fixated on Nicole's door, willing them to come out.
And what about the person that you saw to your side stood out to you, if anything?
Well, I did notice that the person standing next to me had on black camo pants.
Camo is in camouflage?
Right.
All right. And is that the only thing that stood out to you at that time?
Yes, it stood out to me. I don't know why, but it just did.
Okay. And while you're standing there, what, if anything, happened after you saw this person with the black camouflage?
Well, I noted that I hear this my rendition of what I heard was bang, bang, bang.
Okay.
And then I heard Nicole say, "Why are you shooting us?"
And did you see the person that Nicole referred to as shooting you?
No.
Okay. When you heard the bang, 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 did you feel anything?
No.
What happened to you? What did you do when you heard that?
Well, I noticed that I'm no longer looking at Nicole's door. I'm looking up at the sky.
Okay.
And as I'm looking up at the sky, I'm talking to myself like I'm talking to you. Why am I looking up at the sky? So I'm surveying my surroundings. I'm looking left and right. And then I looked down at my body and saw that I'm lying in a pool of blood.
Okay.
So for me, immediately I went to prayer. Abba, Father, if it's your will and your way to take me home, I'm ready. But if it's not your will and your way to take me home, send me your strength and some help.
Okay. And were you able to see Nicole at that point?
I don't remember. I just remember hearing her say, "Why are you shooting us?"
And I know that you say you're laying down and you look down and see the blood. Do you feel anything at that point? Or
I did not.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
What's the next thing that you remember after looking down and saying your prayer?
I remember someone talking, and I could tell it was people from the EMS people. I remember being in the EMS truck because I remember the shaking, the movement, and that's it.
The person that injured you and ultimately ended up killing Nicole, did you hear them say anything?
I don't recall, no.
So you're on the ground and you remember the next voices you hear are EMS or the people there trying to help you.
Correct.
And you remember this shaking in the back of the ambulance. Ultimately, do you end up at the hospital?
Yes, I did.
And do you know how long you were in the hospital?
Well, my first recall of being conscious, I was in an ICU unit. And a coworker of mine was there visiting me, and I remember her asking me, "Lindy, do you know where you are?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "You're in the hospital." And I'm like, "Why?" And then she's like, "You've been shot." I'm like, "I was what?" And she said, "You've been shot." And then she went on to explain that she went on to tell me that Nicole was shot and she was dead.
Mm-hmm. And when she told you that, what was your reaction?
I was numb. I couldn't comprehend that my friend was gone.
Yes, ma'am. And do you know how long after you had been shot that this was approximately that you're having this conversation and finding out about Nicole? I mean, was it the same day? Was it a week? A month?
I think, from my recall, it was maybe a week week, 10 days later, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's maybe like the weekend, but I was told that we're in another week, so it was some time lapse.
Okay. And during that time lapse, do you know if you were sedated or unconscious? Have you found that out?
I was told that I was injured severely, such that I was on life support to keep me alive. My mouth was wired, so I couldn't speak. I recall having to use a tablet to communicate because I couldn't talk.
And when you say use a tablet, like a computer to
Right,
type in?
right.
Okay. And how long did that last that you couldn't use your voice to communicate, that you had to use this tablet? And I know that I'm not asking you to be very specific.
Right. It's
your best guess.
Yeah, because of the shooting, my short-term memory is a little wonky.
I understand.
And I remember speaking to another co-worker that I revere as my daughter, my chosen daughter, and she was filling the gaps and let me know, what happened. And I remember asking, "Where's baby?" And she's like, "She's taken care of." And the family that lived across the street from Nicole ended up taking her in and keeping her for me for the 3 months I was in the hospital.
Okay, so about 3 months you were in the hospital?
I was in the hospital. I entered October 13, 2022, and my discharge date was January 18, 2023.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about your injuries that you suffered, but can you tell the judge, the best of your recollection, were you shot?
Yeah, I was shot several times, and I still have a bullet fragment in me.
Okay, walk us through, if you will, where you were injured, and kind of what the injuries that you suffered were.
I was shot in my left arm. I was shot in my torso. I was shot on my right thigh, and I was shot in my face.
And you said that there's still a bullet fragment in you. Can you tell us?
There
what that
was
is?
5 found in me, and
Now, were those shotgun pellets?
they were pellets, yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know the difference because I never even touched a gun, so I just know they were fragments of a bullet that entered my body.
All right. And you said there were 5 that were found?
There were 5 in there, and right before I got out of the hospital, I had a surgery and 4 was removed, but there was 1 left because of where it was located. And the surgeon was not wanting to disturb it because we could have, messed up some.
Okay, well, tell us what you mean by that.
Well, it's in my left breast, and that's where the heart is. So when he removed it, he wasn't comfortable where that last one was, so he left it in there.
Okay. And so today, is it still inside you?
It's still in there.
Okay. And you said that you had your jaw wired shut for a while.
Yeah, because I was shot in my face, and I had fractures in my face, and they wired my mouth to help my face mend.
Okay. And you've already told us that because of the shooting, you I think your words were your short-term memory is a little wonky.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what other long-term effects, if any, you have suffer from?
Well, I have this condition called paresthesia, and it's nerve ending damage, and I have a numbness, pins poking at me, top of my lip here, bottom of my lip here, and on my chin. The shooting caused severe damage to the eustachian tube on my right ear, which caused severe hearing loss, and I now wear a hearing device to hear. lost some teeth, and I was blessed to get a smile makeover, so my grill was right. But there's something else I'm missing. After I was discharged, I developed a hernia.
Okay.
And I had a hernia repair with mesh. So when I was told the different surgeries, I had several surgeries to keep me alive. And in one of the surgeries, some small intestines were removed. I lost my spleen. And there's a burning sensation on my tongue.
Is that constant?
It's chronic, yes.
Okay.
Just like the numbing on the top and bottom lip and chin.
So those don't go and come, they stay all the time? Is there anything else that you can think of right now that, as a result of the injuries that you suffered that day, that bothers you?
Well, I'm not happy to have that metal inside of me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
does that cause you any discomfort?
It does. It moves. Sometimes it moves under my armpit, and then it's, back in the left breast. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you present in a very positive way for somebody who's gone through all of this. How has it affected you emotionally?
Believe it or not, I feel for the family members who lost loved ones on that day. I lost a dear friend. But because who I am and what I believe in has given me the grace to forgive the young man who shot me. Being a Christian, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And I remember being in ICU and the TV was on, and I remember this old country preacher was on, and I remember him talking about Ephesians 4:32, forgive your brothers and sisters as I've forgiven you. And that's when I got the conviction to forgive the young man who shot me. Because, like I said, if I'm going to talk the talk, I got to walk the walk. And that's what I believe. Lord Jesus wanted me to forgive him so that I can have peace and be obedient to his will and his ways. Because to me, unforgiveness is like making poison for somebody you hate and then drinking it yourself. So it's just who I am.
Well,
now, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm not forgiving to free him. I'm forgiving to free me.
Right. Well, let me ask you, even with this forgiveness, do you think about this at all?
Not a whole lot, to tell you the truth. I don't.
Did you have to, you said that you feel for the victims that have, or the family members of the people that lost people that day.
Correct.
Have you had conversations with them about this?
I have. Tracey, Nicole's husband, and I were friends, and we conversed, we text, we been on a couple of outings. We went bowling, had dinner, and I know we had a celebration. The Raleigh PD got the families together and provided lunch for us, and I was able to meet some other families who were affected by October 13, 2022. So I just feel like, even though I lost a dear friend, I've met some new friends.
And have you been able to receive support from them and give them some support through all of this?
Oh yes, yes.
Do you, as a result of all of this, do you still live in Hedingham, or have you moved?
No, when I was in a hospital, some friends, my chosen daughter and a dear friend moved the things out of the Hedingham house for me, put in storage. And when I was discharged in January, I found a place in Fuquay, and I was out there for a couple of years.
Okay. Have you been back to the Hedingham neighborhood since?
I have visited the family who kept baby for me. I have another friend that I've visited since leaving the neighborhood. So I've been out there a few times. I was out there for the first vigil.
And how does it make you feel to go back to the neighborhood?
I mean, I don't have any hard feelings about what happened to me. I mean, I look at it as part of my journey.
Well, you say that you don't have any hard feelings about what happened to you, but you also said that you've entered into this world of forgiveness for you and not to free the defendant.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and what you mean by that?
Well, when I got convicted to forgive, when I heard that scripture, and what I believe is Lord Jesus died for me, my sins, and forgiveness. And if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So that's what I do. I'm obedient to his will and his way. I know what peace is. I was at peace prior to the shooting. When I was in the hospital, I received so much love from people I didn't even know. And that's because of, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. So I know that doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do works for Lynn. And that's why Lynn does it.
Yes, ma'am. So you told us a little bit, and you may have already answered this for us, but is there anything that you would like for the judge to know about how this has all affected you and kind of what you would like to see as a result of all of this as it relates to the defendant's sentence and anything that you haven't shared with us through my questions about how this has affected you and your family members and friends?
Okay. Well, Your Honor, I thank you for this opportunity to share my story with you. I know sometimes it's a little challenging for people to wrap their head around why I am the way I am, and I can't deny sometimes it's like, really, Lynn? But I am obedient to Lord Jesus. And I don't judge people. That's not my role. What this person did on October 13, 2022, I don't understand it. I don't condone it. I don't take light of it. It saddens me to think about not being able to talk to my friend again. When I wear this bracelet right here, she gave this to me because she and her husband went on a vacation, and I took care of her fur baby. Even though she was at the house with her brother, I would walk her twice a day. And that relationship was blooming into a very good friendship. And we both needed a friend at that time that I was in the neighborhood, because I was there because I experienced a failed relationship, a 35-year relationship, and my former husband divorced me. But after the divorce, I found residence, a place to stay at Hedingham, because I thought, it was a family-oriented neighborhood. It was a golf course community. It was beautiful parks there. The landscape was beautiful. The neighbors were friendly. But I want you to use your wisdom and your heart to make the decision on the sentencing for the heinous crime this young man did on October 13, 2022. I know that's a burden for you. It's a burden for me to think about these families who will never see their loved ones again. But it's my prayer that they get peace with what happened and be blessed to live a life and hold those good memories of those family members that are no longer with us. Thank you.
Do I have any other questions, Your Honor?
Questions?
No question. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Tracy Howard.
Come this way, Mr. Howard. Let you sit your stuff down. Mr. Howard, good morning. Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face Madam Clerk.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Thank you, be seated.
Please be seated, sir. Adjust that microphone if necessary. Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Once you're comfortable up there, if you could just introduce yourself to the court and spell your name for the court reporter, please.
Yes, my name is Tracy Howard, Tracey Howard.
And Mr. Howard, back in October of 2022, where were you living?
Sahaley Way, 5535. Sahaley Way.
And is that in the Hedingham neighborhood?
Yes.
How long had you lived there?
About 3 years at that time.
Okay. Who lived with you? Can you tell us what your situation was there?
Yes, it was me, my wife, and her brother, and Sammy.
And who was Sammy?
Sammy is the dog, our pet, the family member.
Okay. I think we've heard him described. Was it a he or a
She.
her? She.
Yes.
We've heard her described as a fur baby.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And who were you? Who was your wife at that time?
Nicole Connors.
And how long had y'all been together?
I think we were married. Just had our 5th anniversary.
Okay. Can you tell us what brought you to that location, to that Hedingham neighborhood home?
Well, I was in charge of finding the place while Nicole, she was still in Ohio. She hadn't moved down here yet. She put me in charge of finding the place.
Okay.
So I searched around and I came across the Hedingham neighborhood. I thought it was a nice neighborhood. I seen, a lot of people walking their dogs, so I thought that would be perfect for her. And I just seemed like a nice neighborhood.
And those 3 years that you were living there, did it seem like a nice neighborhood to you?
Yes.
During on October 13th, well, I'll back up. You just heard from Miss Gardner. Did you know her back then?
Yes.
And how did you get to know her?
basically met her through Nicole, I believe. I don't remember the meeting, but I believe I met her through Nicole.
Okay. And we've heard Miss Gardner, talk about walking the fur babies.
Yes.
Was that something that happened fairly regularly?
Every day, 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Did you ever partake, or was that
Every now and then? Sammy, she wouldn't let anybody else walk her. She used to, just her mother.
Okay. She's
Yeah.
partial to Nicole.
Yes.
Okay. On October 13th of 2022, do you remember Miss Gardner and Nicole getting ready to go for a walk?
No.
Okay. Tell us what you were up to that day.
While they were out at dinner, I decided to go to the store, pick up a few things for my lunch for work that night. And I needed to stop at the hardware store, pick up some light bulbs.
Okay. So you knew that they had gone out to lunch for the birthday dinner.
Yes.
How long did y'all leave at the same time, or?
No, they left there probably about an hour before I did.
And about how long were you gone, if you remember?
I would say probably about an hour, because it took me a while to find the light bulbs that I wanted. So I was back and forth in Lowe's.
Okay.
So it was about an hour.
While you were out running these errands, did you have any communication with Nicole at all?
Not while I was running the errands. She texted me, but I didn't receive it. I didn't hear the text. I didn't hear my phone buzz. I must, in Lowe's, I must have not heard it. But that was, she texted me, she called me before, she called me while they were on their way to the restaurant to let me know that a package had arrived for me.
Okay. When you were done running these errands, can you tell us what happened next?
Well, after I finally found everything I needed, I arrived, I pulled up the street. I pulled in the driveway. I seen Lynn laying on the sidewalk. I didn't recognize her at first. So I turned to go run in the house to get Nicole to see if she knew what was going on. But as soon as I turned towards the door, I seen Sammy laying there. And she was bleeding.
Where was Sammy?
On the porch.
And where was that in relation to where you saw Lynn?
Basically, straight ahead. As soon as I turned to my right, I was facing the porch, and I seen Sammy there.
And what was, I think you mentioned Sammy was bleeding. What was Sammy's condition?
Sammy, she was bleeding from the mouth. I could tell she was no longer alive.
What else did you see when you got there?
So I walked up to the porch, and I looked to my left and I seen Nicole. I couldn't see her from the sidewalk because the bushes were hiding. And I seen Nicole laying on the porch, and she looked like she was mortally wounded also.
What was it that made you think that?
I could tell by her eyes that she was no longer with us.
Was there anything else around her, or?
Basically, we had some plants that were on the porch. They were strewn over the place. They were strewn through the yard, and the table was knocked over. The patio table was knocked over. Chairs were knocked over. So
Once you saw that, what did you do? I
kind of panicked, man. I didn't want to touch anything. I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't want to walk through the front door because kind of figured, I thought maybe it was, a robber, burglar or something. So I turned and I was going to go through the garage door, go through the house to the garage. But as I got to the garage, I seen her brother walk in the house. And I figured if anyone was in there, they would have seen him in there. So I figured there was no one in the house.
Did you have a conversation about what was going on?
I just asked him what was going on. I asked him what was going on. He said he didn't hear anything. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't hear anything. I told him that I believe Nicole is dead.
What did you do next?
I called 911. I called. And then as I was talking to 911, I went across the street to Lynn's neighbor, Sherry, and asked her, did she see anything? Did she know what was going on?
Now you're talking to us now, and your demeanor is very calm right now. What was your demeanor like? How were you acting then?
I don't remember. I know I was definitely panicked, in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I had seen. I was just I didn't know how to act or how to feel.
When you are on the phone with 911 and you're requesting help, can you talk to us about how that went?
It's been so long, I don't really recall how it really went, but I know that I heard ambulances and the ambulance and the police cars in the background. I figured they were on their way. I don't remember the conversation with the 911 caller, but not long after that, the ambulance arrived.
Was it a little frustrating for you how long it felt like it was taking them to get there?
Yes, it was frustrating, but once the ambulance got there, I was trying to stop them to let them know that this was the house that I called from, but they kept going down the street. But they eventually turned back around and stopped at the house and took care of Lynn and Nicole.
And I hate to go back to this, but when you saw Lynn and Nicole, what type of injuries did you think they had? Did you notice any?
I noticed the gunshot wounds.
Is that something that you had ever seen before?
No, I've never seen nothing like that before. But I could tell they had been shot bad.
So the ambulance arrives. What happens next?
Well, the ambulance arrives and they take Nicole, Lynn, pick them up, take them to the hospital, I believe. I was gonna go to the hospital. I was gonna follow the ambulance, but at that time the police had arrived and told me that I had to leave the car there. They said it was part of its evidence now.
Okay.
So
was there some damage to a car?
To her car, yes, that was parked in the garage. It was damage to her car.
What do you have any idea what kind of damage?
It had radiator damage, tires had been shot. And
Gunshot damage?
yes,
Okay.
of course.
Now, when this is all going on, did you have any idea that there was anything else that had happened or was happening in your neighborhood?
I had no idea. I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't heard anything.
So it sounds like you didn't follow the ambulance to the hospital.
No.
So what'd you do?
I talked to a few police officers at that time, Mr. Tripp, I believe, Detective Tripp, and I started just walking around and trying to comprehend what was going on. So I stopped at my neighbor's house across the street and just sat on his porch until he came outside, and he sat out there and talked to me for a while.
And during this time, it sounds like you're trying to just get your head right or calm
Yes.
down. I think you said you spoke to several officers.
Yes.
At some point, and I'm assuming, but when you talk to them, what did you tell them?
I just basically told them what I knew, I told them, what happened, how I came home and found them. That's all I could tell them.
At some point, then, did you get to the hospital?
Yes. They one of the officers came up to me while I was sitting on the porch and told me that my wife was still alive, and asked me could I get to the hospital, and my neighbor, he offered to take me.
What happened once you got to the hospital?
I got to the hospital, and they were doctors told me they were still operating on her. Then so I sat around with the hospital chaplain. She comforted me the whole time I was there. Eventually, they took Lynn to her room and told me that I could go see my wife.
Okay. And when you went to go see, what happened?
When I walked in the room, I immediately said, "That's not my wife."
It was Lynn.
Yes. I believe it was. I believed it was Lynn. She was unrecognizable at that point.
Did you know at that point then the status of Nicole?
Yes. Because they told me that they asked me, they were asking around. I heard them ask, had anybody else been operated on? They said no. So at that time, I figured that she didn't make it.
And at some point, did someone officially come
Yes.
tell you that?
Yes.
How long were you at the hospital, if you remember, before you actually found that out?
It was maybe five hours, I believe. It was late into the night once they finally told me. It was about 11 o'clock at night when they finally came and told me that I could visit.
And once you found that out, what did you do? Where'd you go?
I walked outside the hospital. I left the chaplain and walked outside the hospital, just walking around, and I was waiting on her sister, her family to get there. They were coming from Charlotte. And not too long after I walked outside, they arrived, and I let them know what happened. And we went back in the hospital, and they took us down to the morgue to view the body.
After that, I imagine you had, did you go back home?
No, we weren't allowed to go back to the house that night. They had everything taped off. So we got a hotel for the night.
Did you eventually get a chance to go back home?
Yes, the next day, around midday, we were allowed to go back home.
Do you still live at that location?
No.
How long after this happened did you move?
I moved in April of 2023 from that residence.
Ms. Gardner mentioned some of the things that, some gatherings of other victims' families that have taken place. Have you taken part in those?
Yes, most of them, yes.
Once you were able to learn more about what had happened, did you realize where the defendant lived compared to you?
Yes, I knew where he lived, yes.
Did you know him before this happened?
Not really, no.
Have you had any interaction with him?
You know, when I would see him coming, walking to and from the bus stop, and I might speak to him every now and then. Usually no reaction.
And so where, just so the court knows, where in relation to your house did he live?
2 doors down from me.
Mr. Howard, I imagine, well, I know that this has had a huge impact on you. What would you like the court to know about how this incident has impacted you and your loved ones since October 13th of 2022?
Well, this Austin's actions, broken me. I don't enjoy the things that I used to do. I feel socially awkward now. I don't like to go anywhere. Because I feel guilty about having fun without my wife. It's left me emotionally, financially, left me unstable. Thank you. I plan on saying a lot up here, but I can't get through it.
Thank you for what you have said, Your Honor. No further questions.
Questions?
No, thank you for being here.
Mr. Miller?
Or may we approach
Yes.
the next witness?